now that the topic of the day was climate crisis, and from a global perspective, we have heard of the recent extreme weather events that have taken place in the northern hemisphere, like the floods in Germany, the wildfire in a Canadian town, and the 80 large fires that consumed more than 1 million acres in the western United States. I don't know what's going on in the United Kingdom, but what do you think is the major cause of this, plus the current state in your country?
In the UK, I definitely think we don't have it as bad as a lot of other countries. We just had a really, really hot heat wave of about 30, I think the highest was 32 degrees Celsius, which for the UK is very, very warm. I think I remember 25 used to be like really hot about 10 years ago. So now like 30 is very warm, and we're definitely not built for it because our houses are really insulated and we've got no air conditioning. So 30 degrees is like, it's hot. So it's that bit of, in the UK, it's more unseasonable weather as opposed to the extremes like Germany is experiencing, that flooding, and it was absolutely atrocious. And it's this sort of thing where I think it's easy for media to go, oh, the flooding in Germany and the climate crisis, but they can't put the two together. And like the flooding is the result of the climate crisis. You need to start putting them together and realising that one is a consequence of the other. And I think in the UK, a lot of the kind of contribution that we have is through funding. The UK is a really, really rich nation, and through, especially banking, we give a lot of money for the fossil fuel industry. So even though we don't frack in the UK and we don't kind of do that, there is this huge, huge impact that we're having on other countries where we're just funding so much fossil fuels. And I don't think the government are really doing that much at the moment to tackle it.
Yeah, and as you say that the government is doing something, I realized that last week the European Union unveiled an ambitious plan to put climate at the center of about every development and economic initiative that it has. And I felt like that was really, really a very good initiative that they had actually started. But we have, still, what do you think is a major cause of all those events, and how best do you think we can stop it? Because this statement was said by the General of the United Nations, Antonio. He said climate emergency is a race that we are losing, but it's a race that we can win. And in the speech that she said for the UK Youth Parliament, in the annual sitting that took place in November, you said that we are the last people to do something, So how true are these statements? What extent are these statements true? And how best can we involve the youth to do this?
That is a very big question, but it's a very good one. I think it is so easy to feel so overwhelmed with the climate crisis because it's just there's so many issues. It's such wide kind of reaching. How can I ever get involved in solving this? And people sort of shut down because it is just this really intimidating subject. But I think the best thing that you can do on an individual level is join organisations, whether that's Fridays for Future, whether that's Reform Africa, whether that's a local strike group, a local climate action group, anything that you can do to help be a part of a bigger network and just multiply what you do and help those organisations can have a huge, huge benefit. And I think there's so much out there, and obviously you can read so many books, you can do so much research around it, but the best thing you can do is take action and not let the sort of fear of never being good enough to solve it debilitate you from not doing anything at all. What do you think people can do in your experience?
Personally, I think that we can start, climate awareness, and I feel like we start small, plant a tree, starting by planting one tree, and it could help out because right now in my country, they are planning to destroy a forest to replace it with sugarcane. It's really, ironic. So I feel like if all of us take it upon ourselves to start planting a tree in our district, in our communities, in our villages, I feel like this would actually do something much, much better. And as you had said, people should start joining organizations. There is one, Transform Africa, as you know it. There is 1 billion trees. We recently interviewed someone. And also, I feel like Fridays for Future Digital is a really nice platform that we can all join, So I feel like if people can begin, and you've told us that positive impact of joining these climate activism groups. So I feel like this is something that we should do. The questions from the audience, I think I'll ask them at the end, but we have all seen that human activities producing greenhouse gas emission at a record high with no signs of slowing down. Billions of tons of carbon dioxide are released into the atmosphere every year as a result of coal, oil, and gas production. Do you think fossil fuels can be entirely eradicated?
That is a very good question. It's difficult. I'm not going to say that any of this will ever be easy to completely phase out fossil fuels or to go completely renewable energy sources. I think it's doable. It's definitely no question that it's doable, but it's whether governments around the world and companies and the big sort of 100 corporations that are responsible for 71% of global emissions, whether they want to do it, whether we can put enough incentive in their pockets for them to economically do that, because that's all they're driven by, is a different question. And I think it's naive to think that, yes, we can just suddenly completely eradicate all fossil fuels in the next 30 years, like some governments are acting like they can do. But there is a lot we can do in terms of investment and incentivizing companies to shift to renewable energy sources. And I think at the moment, the profit and sustaining growth economically is still being put before the environment in every single country. I don't think there's a country that's got it 100% right yet, but I think there's definitely a lot we can be doing to promote kind of technological developments in green energy. But I just don't think we're there yet in terms of priorities.
Yeah, but I believe that slowly by slowly, I feel like we are going to do, because right now I was reading some articles and people are like, COVID, yes, we managed to live through it, but we cannot manage to live through the effects of climate crisis, because as I had said earlier, the recent effects have really, really been devastating. And at this juncture, I really want to give you questions from the audience. And Jovan has asked whether English MP, Mr. Boris, has any plans for climate. Yeah, just a question.
Yeah, so Boris Johnson he's made some good promises in the past. Obviously, we're hosting COP26 in the UK this year, so that in itself is a really good opportunity for information, technology sharing, because the climate crisis is an international effort. And he's signed a lot of biodiversity pledges as part of the UN. But I think the problem we have in the UK is what policymakers say they'll do and what they sign pledges and promises and kind of post on social media that they do and what they actually do in person are very, very different things. And I think it sort of lulls the public into a false sense of security, because it's really easy to go, oh, the government are doing something because they've promised they will. But then there's no follow-up on them actually physically implementing it. And I think in the UK, that's the biggest problem we've got, is that we're saying we're doing a lot and we're going to be carbon neutral by 2038, but we definitely aren't making the steps to reach that. And at the moment, kind of all climate scientists are saying the projections, we're just not going to get there by 2038. So we can't carry on, I suppose, falsely telling people that somehow we're going to make it there by some miracle, because if we don't physically do something, it isn't just going to solve itself like we expect it to.
I really like that point that you say that most people are just making awareness on the social media, which is ironic, because at this rate, people can be like, stop the climate, do this, do that, but no one is doing something physically, and that is something that is, draining us down, putting us down. No matter how many organizations that you're going to join about climate activism, I feel like if you do not implement what you're spreading, we are literally like someone who is ignorant about, about the climate activism at this point. So that was really a nice point, I would say, and I think there's no more question in the audience as per now. But though I would really love to say that thank you so much for coming and joining us today in this discussion. I know it was really short. I really hope it was really longer. But what would your closing remarks be for the youth out there who would really, really love to, be climate activists, but they are really scared and shy of speaking for themselves?
One thing I always tell young people whenever I meet them is that your age doesn't dictate your ability to make change in the world that you want to see. I was always so intimidated and scared about getting involved in politics, because it is a really adult-dominated space. But you have so much power as a young person to change things, because people don't expect you to. They expect you to sit at home, be really apathetic, not be engaged or educated. And I think when a young person steps forward and they enter adult-dominated spaces and they speak and they have a passion and they have an opinion, even if they're not as educated as maybe adults are, that in itself speaks so, so loudly. So don't let your age hold you back from doing things, and go out there and put yourself forward. You don't need to have a degree. You don't need to be the most educated person in the room. You just need to have lived experience with the thing you're trying to campaign for, whether that be the climate crisis, racism, sexism. Just use your experience and use that passion, and just join groups that you can give towards, because you have so much power to change things, and don't let anything hold you back.
Wow, that has moved me, and I think I'm currently in my first year in university, so I think come second year, I was thinking of age, I'm going to actually stand for president of Makerere Engineering Society. So I'm really, really glad that I have talked to you. But how can someone reach out to you in case, you know, they have been moved by this. So, and actually someone has quoted that, don't let your age stop you. And I think that has also been my take home at this point. So how can someone reach out to you in case that they would love to, you know, interact with you and get to know more about you?
Please send me a DM on Instagram or Twitter. I love chatting to people. It's one of my favourite things. I love meeting new people. So yeah, feel free to send me a message. And I think I've got my email in my bio as well. So if you want to do a bit more formal, feel free to send me an email. But my DMs are always open and I try to respond as people ASAP.
Yes, thank you so much again for honoring our invite, because we are really, really honored for you to, you know, accept our invite. And bigger shout outs to our president of Transform Africa, that is Isaiah Chedere, who made all this happen. So I would love to say have a blessed afternoon. Have a blessed afternoon to everyone who is on the call, and we hope that we'll be interacting with you in the future. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.